we said, hold on, let's reimagine this work. And we reimagined this work in such a way with our awesome confidential AI agents, right, across our platforms in the 4 companies that you mentioned. And we worked together. And then we were able to create a use case and a scenario that served thousands of people at ServiceNow. And we took a process that took 4 days to 8 seconds.
Hi, welcome to AI Confidential. This is a podcast about AI and how to benefit from it responsibly. I'm Aaron Fulkerson, the CEO of Opaque.
And I'm Mark Hinkle, the publisher of the Artificially Intelligent Enterprise.
So Mark, last week I went to ServiceNow's headquarters in Santa Clara and sat down with Kellie Romack. She's their Chief Digital Information Officer, and they're also a customer of Opaque. And, you know, I should talk a little bit about ServiceNow and the significance of that. You have context for ServiceNow. You know, maybe you share a little bit about them.
I started my career doing help desk stuff, and we had homegrown systems because back in the, I'm going to date myself, back in the 90s, we didn't have, you know, holistic tools like they have. You know, ticketing systems, they have tools to help manage your infrastructure. And then I got out of help desk and got out of IT from the maintenance side and got into the software side. But I used to work in Santa Clara down the street on when I worked at Citrix, and their building seemed to just like pop up overnight. And before I knew it, everybody I knew was using ServiceNow for help desk. And then I got to learn a little bit more because they had this fire plug entrepreneur that came in and launched, I think it was ServiceNow Impact, which was their fastest growing product of all time. I forget what that guy's name was. I think it was, what was his name? Aaron Fulkerson. That's who it was.
I did too. Thanks for the kind words. I did 2 missions. I always think about my career in terms of missions where you have like a tour of duty that you complete. I did 1 tour of duty or mission with the customer workflows business unit, which I was on the leadership team for that business unit. We turned it into the fastest growing in the history of the company. And then I pitched an idea for a new business unit called ServiceNow Impact. And that became an even much like order of magnitude faster growing business unit than even that previous one. ServiceNow did start as an IT help desk system. It was founded out of San Diego, where I live, from a gentleman named Fred Luddy. He had the vision for a system of action where everybody else has these systems of record, like sales, customer relationship management, or marketing, or et cetera. He had a vision for a system of action that allows you to build workflows to automate and augment humans. And they really had a very successful product strategy that led to a very successful go-to-market, where the initial use case was around this IT help desk, but they became a digital transformation platform across the enterprise. And they have, you know, probably the top 20,000 companies on the planet. Everybody uses ServiceNow. And customer workflows was one of those first line of business products focusing on customer service as an extension to the IT help desk. But ServiceNow has like all these line of business applications built on their platform. And in 2023, when I was still there, months after ChatGPT hit, the company, under the leadership of Bill McDermott, who's just an absolutely incredible CEO and brilliant person, they masterfully executed a pivot to AI agents before anybody else did in the enterprise. They were really the first enterprise software company that pivoted to AI agents. And I was there at the time. Opaque reached out to me, and I was seeing how at ServiceNow we were pivoting to AI agents, and my customers were very uncomfortable with the data being used by these non-deterministic agents which operate at machine speed with human-like capabilities because they didn't have certainty about the privacy and sovereignty of their data that gets fed into these things. And I also saw where this was going. ServiceNow already was this, as I mentioned, system of action that would connect Salesforce, Workday, a variety of different enterprise systems and data sources and build workflows across them. So for them, it was very natural to go, okay, we're doing this with AI agents now. And I saw what was going to happen is you would have this agentic system emerge, which is a composite system where you have ServiceNow agents interoperating with agents provided by Accenture that is stitching together agents and data flows from Salesforce, Workday, and other enterprise systems. And it was really clear to me when Opaque reached out that they had a vision for how do you ensure integrity of the agent so it's not an imposter that's exfiltrating your data? How do you ensure data policy compliance? All of the things that historical IT governance, compliance, security, access control tools cannot do in an agentic world. I saw, oh, wait a second, Opaque can build in that direction and deliver on that with hardware guarantees. And it was really from there that I left ServiceNow, joined Opaque. And then shortly after my joining, I got a phone call from an engineering team at ServiceNow saying, hey, we've been trying to build these confidential agents for using confidential computing primitives to provide certain guarantees. It looks like you guys already built a product for this. And they became a customer.
We've been talking about what ServiceNow does and the fact that they're doing agents, but they're deploying confidential agents. And while I know what confidential computing is and I know what agents are, what are confidential AI agents? Because I think there's some nuance there that I'm not totally grasping.
Yeah, I'll start off by giving you the concept behind it, and then I'm going to ground it in a real business problem from a conversation that I had with an insurance company this week. So everybody understands AI agents are these non-deterministic, AI-based collection of tools and models that operate semi or entirely autonomously to execute on tasks which might involve decision-making. So confidential agents are ones that are processing sensitive or confidential data and include guarantees that that data is kept private, that policies are adhered to for regulatory or internal reasons. And then the way that Opaque thinks about it is the confidential agent really has 3 layers of guarantees. I just described the middle layer, which is during execution. But let me walk you through all 3. 1, before you invoke a confidential agent or send it data, you can verify its integrity. And what I mean by verifying its integrity is, what is the agent? Whose agent is it? Is it my agent? What version of models is it using? What is the specific security parameters it's adhering to? So you can verify that it is in fact the agent you expect, or what we call integrity, through hardware attestation. It's signed by the hardware at the time that it's put into a runtime. You can think of it as like signed it compilation. Then that's the before. During, the data stays encrypted, so nobody can see it, not a hyperscaler where you're running the agent. And the policies, which could be inherited from the data source, are cryptographically bound and enforced in a provable way. After, there's an audit trail that's produced that anybody who's involved with the data that was sent to it, that was kept encrypted and had the policy binding, can review this independently and verify that their data policies and privacy are intact. So like from a concept, that's what we mean by confidential agent, is you have this before, during, after verification. Now, let me ground it in a reality, like an actual business use case. Like one, we talked about some ServiceNow ones we will see with Kellie where we're talking about this, but I'll pick a different one. So there's an insurance provider. They have to produce a demand letter. A demand letter is a claimant's opening argument in settlement negotiations. The claims adjuster and the in-house legal staff review the letter to evaluate liability and damages, and they have to provide responses. They may produce this letter themselves. They may have to respond to one of these letters. They are very long. These are like 300-page documents. They consist of factual background, like accident description, police reports, witness statements, sometimes dash camera surveillance references. These are very dense documents, and a whole lot, like just picture like you if you've ever watched like a legal television thriller and they come in with a trolley full of file folders, like boxes and boxes and boxes. Literally, that's what often goes into these demand letters, and it's kind of a synthesis of this. So now imagine doing this all manually when you have access to AI. Well, insurance providers, insurance carriers, like the one that we're working with and I was having a discussion with, they cannot use AI agents. So it's very expensive, very error prone, because it's involving a lot of human beings and months and months and months of work, maybe years of work. So they want to use AI, but the challenge is, in order to use AI, this is information that they're processing, which could affect companies' stock price. It could affect individuals' healthcare information. It's often highly regulated, or at the very least, highly sensitive and confidential information that's part of this processing. So they won't use ChatGPT or Claude because they have no way of knowing if they're leaking this data as part of the computation of the language model or around AI agents. So they want to do agentic automation, but in order to do that with this kind of information, they have to have verifiability before, during, and after. So confidential agents give you that, and it stays encrypted before, during, and after, and you have auditability and traceability of data policy compliance and privacy.
And so I think people generally understand encrypting their data at rest and even encrypting data in flight, but it's the data and processing part that is probably the newest and most unique. It seems counterintuitive when you first explained it to me so we're going to decrypt the data, do stuff with it, but it's not going to leak out. Can you just dive into that just a little bit more? Because you and I talk about it a lot, but it still sounds like a little bit of magic to me.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar from, remember in the early internet days where it was just web pages and you couldn't really do commerce on the internet because there was no cryptographic trust layer for processing or sending data to be processed. Mm-hmm. So we came up with TLS, which everybody who uses the internet will know is like your SSL cert, and your browser, you'll see HTTPS mm-hmm. :// That S is encryption. So it's an encrypted channel using TLS. So that's what opened up the internet for doing commerce. Like before that, it was really easy for people to intercept data in flow across the network and steal identities, credit cards, etc. In the same way that encryption in use is unlocking the use of enterprise AI and agents, it's very similar. And here's why it's important. In the current web, we have, as you said, encryption at rest, encryption in transit, but we do not have encryption in use. During the deterministic web that's human-based, we could get away with that. Do people build organized crime syndicates that phish and hack and commit fraud? Yeah, but it's fairly manageable because even the most organized criminal syndicate can only do so much damage over the course of years. However, since there's no cryptographic trust layer that can enforce identity and policies at scale that's enforceable and verifiable with like a zero trust hardware basis, like what confidential agents does, because this is all rooted in the hardware. What that means is these agents, if they're weaponized and used to execute criminal syndicates activity, can accomplish in weeks what criminal syndicates couldn't accomplish in years, because these operate at machine speed. They're potentially self-replicating. They have human-like behavior capabilities. So we have to close the last mile, which is actual runtime cryptographic verifiability or guarantees. So we talk about it encrypted in use, which is exactly what's happening. It's happening. Each data owner holds their encryption key. The data is processed encrypted. Well, how do you process data while it's encrypted? There's what's called in hardware, this new fangled hardware. It's not that new. It's been around for 10 years. It just didn't have a killer application before AI agents. What's called a trusted execution environment. This is encrypted caches within the silicon of the CPU or GPUs that allows you to process data while encrypted. Now, if each data owner holds their own encryption key, how is that possible? Well, confidential AI facilitates the invisible handoff of these keys into that encrypted cache where the data gets processed while encrypted in the cache, and policies are enforced that are inherited from the data owner cryptographically and verifiably inside this encrypted cache. So nobody can see the data. Even somebody in the data center wouldn't be able to see the data. And there's cryptographic enforcement of the policies during the trusted execution runtime. And then auditability from an audit trail that's signed by the hardware, proving to any third party who wants to inspect that their policies were bound correctly and their data kept private.
I'm really curious to hear what you and Kellie had to say. So let's get to that conversation.
Welcome, Kellie Romack.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be sitting here with you in Santa Clara at the ServiceNow headquarters.
Whoop whoop.
You are, no.
It's exciting. We love
I know.
being here.
I love this office.
The headquarters, the buzz, the people. It's awesome.
There's such a great energy here, always. So you are the Chief Digital Information Officer of ServiceNow.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role?
Thank you. So I lead digital technology here at ServiceNow. We deliver amazing experiences for our customers, partners, and our employees. Part of what we do is customer zero, right? So we build on the platform that we sell. So we are customer zero, right? So my team looks at all of the products that we have, we adopt them, use them, and then we give feedback so that we can make sure we're getting the best solutions for our customers ultimately. And our job is to serve and protect, right? I'm focused on scaling smarter, moving faster, and transforming the business in all corners. Right? And it's all powered by AI on a safe, secure environment on our ServiceNow platform.
So you said a lot there that I want to highlight because it's really important to understand. One, ServiceNow genuinely has been the defining enterprise software company of this century so far. And in particular, that's been true because every enterprise uses ServiceNow to do digital transformation. Now, that means that you, as the Chief Digital Information Officer, you are the world leader in what other CIOs and CDIOs are doing globally. And a demonstration of that is the fact that you're building as customer zero, the first blueprint, the first reference architecture that then rolls out across all of the other thousands and thousands of companies globally that use ServiceNow to power AI and digital transformations. So you have a huge responsibility.
Well, when you put it that way. Yes, and I have to tell you, one of our values here is hungry and humble. And I'm humbled every single day to wake up and the team wakes up. How do we drive faster, smarter, more scalable, great experiences for, again, our customers, partners, and employees? And part of it is we're redefining how technology runs and operates in an organization.
One of the things that you're using at ServiceNow is confidential AI agents. And increasingly, people are becoming aware that these agents, which are operating at machine speed with human-like capabilities, potentially even self-replicating in certain scenarios, require some verifiable guarantees. So we've partnered with you at Opaque on confidential AI agents. I'd like to talk about that a moment. But first, what drew you to confidential AI at ServiceNow?
I mean, Aaron, we're obsessed with building and keeping trust, and confidential AI helps us balance personalization, privacy, so we can deliver better experiences without compromising any integrity. We understand we have to balance the confidentiality with all of the AI that helps us personalize, right, in context, but with privacy, as you know, in our partnership, right, so that we can deliver those better experiences and completely integrated on our platform end to end. And when I think about it, right, we're embedding confidential AI agents into HR, into finance, into legal, into our go-to-market. Confidential AI is so important, part of our zero trust framework that we're running, and operates with secure agents, across our ecosystem. And we've worked with you guys on that as well.
So I want to talk about confidential AI agents, but before I even jump into that, I really want to celebrate two core values of ServiceNow. Mm-hmm. Hungry and humble is something that, from Bill McDermott all the way down to the rank and file at ServiceNow, really embody every day. And I genuinely believe that's why ServiceNow is the defining enterprise software company. Beyond that, the other thing that I think is really essential, and something that Bill has talked about, you have talked about, it's something that attracted me to ServiceNow, in fact, was a real just laser focus on trust, right? That's something that, Bill, I remember him saying this on CNBC, in fact, you earn trust in drips. Yep. You lose it in bucket loads. Or what was the exact quote? It's something like that.
Bill
right?
says trust is earned in drops, but
yeah.
you lose it, right? You lose it in buckets, right? Yeah. So, and we believe that. We take every customer engagement, every product engagement, right, incredibly seriously. We are here to serve, we are here to protect, and we are here to transform the world with the ServiceNow platform, and especially with all of the sensitive information. We are here to transform with confidential computing.
So let's talk about, let me give a quick definition of confidential AI agents for some people who this might be new to.
Yes.
And then we'll drill into how you guys are doing that here. So confidential agents, what that allows you to do is to provide verifiable guarantees before you interact with the agent about its integrity. Is it my agent? Is it meet my security posture? Then during the processing, during the actual computation of data, the data stays encrypted even during the processing. So all the data policies get cryptographically bound, and the data stays encrypted inside the hardware itself during the time of processing. And then after the fact, you have an attested audit trail that's signed by the hardware. So this is a technology, the hardware underlying it that makes this possible, that's been around for 10 years. But the application, the killer application for it is AI. So it's a few years old field, confidential AI, but the underlying technology that makes it possible is, slightly over a decade old. So we partnered together, Opaque and ServiceNow, alongside Microsoft Azure and NVIDIA. And we actually did a nice customer spotlight about this with ServiceNow. But this particular use case of confidential AI agents was with your sales commission help desk. And I'd love to dig into that case study a little bit more, because it's a really concrete example of how enterprises can use agents to get the most out of their sensitive or highly confidential data without sacrificing any privacy or security. And you can provide verifiable guarantees of the privacy. So why did you choose that particular use case first for confidential AI deployment? And what problem were you trying to solve?
Thank you. And part of it, right, I love that you took a minute and explained the confidential AI, right, agents and how that works. Because that is our job. We have to ensure things are safe and secure so that people in every day can engage with our AI, right? We want to democratize it for all of our employees, customers, and partners. So back to your question. How did we do it for sales? We took a really complicated use case that we saw, and we saw that our sellers really wanted to know quite frequently where they are in their plans, which makes sense. Like, they need to know how they're making things happen, how they're moving forward. Well, they would send it to our awesome sales compensation team, so they were getting thousands and thousands and thousands of requests. We saw a bot backlog, and so we zoomed out. Instead of just making things go faster or getting less requests, we said, hold on, let's reimagine this work. And we reimagined this work in such a way with our awesome confidential AI agents, right, across our platforms in the 4 companies that you mentioned, and we worked together, and then we were able to create a use case and a scenario that served thousands of people at ServiceNow. And we took a process that took 4 days to 8 seconds. Like, boom, right? That's amazing. So you think you put all those things in practice, you reimagine the work, and then you put it to work, and it's winning for everybody.
This was so far the highlight of my time at Opaque, was seeing Bill McDermott on CNBC talk about this use case.
Yeah.
And just how powerful it was for them to be able to take it from 4 days to seconds.
Absolutely. Well, and we're freeing up our help desk to work on more strategic work, right? And being able to do more human engagement, taking those soul-crushing tasks that you've heard Bill talk about, right, away, and then creating a higher order value for our employees and being able to move things forward for our customers.
So a lot of people think of ServiceNow platform as a system of action or execution. And it's a platform of platforms because it really critically to understand is it's a single platform, a single architecture, a single data model.
That's right.
But it's often referred to as a platform of platforms because it's connected to all of these other disparate systems of record that is aggregating data, processing data, using AI agents to then create actions and orchestration for streamlining employees' workloads so they don't have to deal with that soul-crushing workload.
That's right.
The challenge here with AI agents, broadly speaking, for those who are not using confidential AI like you guys are, is the data's coming from a variety of different places. These agents operate at machine speed. They have human-like capabilities, but they're non-deterministic. Like, that means that it's never possible to determine what their outcomes will be once you deploy them. And potentially these agents can be self-replicating. So the importance of this AI trust layer, which you've built into the platform for ServiceNow, is that you can provide guarantees that these agents are honoring trust boundaries, data policies. The data stays encrypted during processing. And there's an audit trail that is provable and verifiable by any party about the security of that. Now, this clearly seems like a huge differentiating advantage for ServiceNow.
Secure agents are a baseline, right? It's not a goal. We have to ensure that secure agents in our workflow is absolutely the baseline. It's expected. And so creating that security, safety, and trust, number one, we have to make that happen. So how we're doing that, right? Let's talk a little about that. We're putting AI to work for people so they don't have to worry about any of those concerns, right? Make the world work better. We're empowering organizations so they can innovate, incubate, test, and learn in a very safe, secure environment. So that's super important, right? Because you want to learn in a safe and secure environment. And that means you're harnessing this full power of AI while you're maintaining these strict compliance policies and regulations, as you well know, right? So we don't sacrifice trust or performance, right? Our confidential AI agents operate within a secure boundaries and give our customer the confidence to automate their sensitive workflows without risk or concern. That is key to success.
You guys are running this in what's called a trusted execution environment, which is a cryptographic cache within the hardware. You can actually provide the receipts, the hardware signed attested audit trails, the cryptographic guarantees that the data is kept encrypted, data policies are bound during processing. So what impact have you seen so far from implementing confidential agents?
We've seen great success. And the thing is I like to tell people when they're thinking about moving something like this forward, and you heard me give the example that we talked about on sales compensation, right? We took days to seconds, impacted thousands of people, improved user experience, improved productivity, and got people the answers they wanted. And by the way, the overall satisfaction's great. So it's not always about just productivity. You need to make sure that you're building experiences and technologies people love, because it's so important.
Yeah, there's a recent research paper that came out of MIT that was talking about generative AI delivering value for only 5% of enterprises, whereas 95% hadn't achieved value realization. And when you start digging into the details of that paper, it's very clear what's going on. They're using foundation models, the consumer product. They're not using their business or enterprise data, so they're not grounding the AI with their proprietary data with good reason, because people know that these models can leak unless they're using an enterprise platform like ServiceNow.
Mhm.
With ServiceNow, you have confidential AI, you have these cryptographic guarantees that are verifiable, and it's a single platform, single data model, single architecture for securing. So what organizational and cultural shifts are you seeing as AI becomes more embedded in the process? Not just within your customer zero, but across your landscape of enterprise. Because I know you have a very different experience from what this recent MIT study shows.
Yes, we do. And part of, I'll say, my accountability and my obligation is to drive that scalability, extensibility throughout ServiceNow. We want to ensure all of our employees have the tools they need to make it happen, right? And so how do we do that? What you ask, right? So we know AI is a force multiplier. So that requires us to zoom out and reimagine the work. Do not just automate the old, right? To your point, you said earlier, AI has unlocked a totally different realm. So we need to harness that, reimagine the work, and then we're able to reinvest our people's time. So we reimagine the work, we create more productivity, we create more efficiencies, then we're able to invest in our people in different ways. So one example is we're scaling our team's capacity by 40% by doing IT zero service desk, right? So a zero service desk, so everything you touch at first is autonomous, but we're not cutting that talent. Absolutely not. We're evolving that talent, we're reskilling that talent to level up, to help us go drive, be more efficient, do more strategic work and applications of it, right? So that is so important as well. I think as AI and you hear all the noise in the market, you have to make sure you're looking at your talent, you're understanding how to drive your talent forward, and also how to reskill and level up your talent to continue to push your company forward. And it's changing at lightning speed.
You literally are one of the most influential chief digital information officers on the planet. And I know you're going to be like, but it's very, very true. And that's because, not just because you create the initial reference architecture for every ServiceNow product and capture the value quantitatively from those deployments like you just described, but it's also true because you spend so much of your time talking to customers, talking to CIOs, talking to heads of businesses. What are you seeing in cultural shifts across the market? Are there any trends that you're observing that might not be immediately obvious to people who don't have your unique vantage?
Well, thank you. And again, hungry and humble, right? Super important. And you're right, I do spend a great amount of time talking to customers. And part of that is seeking to understand, what are their needs? What do they need out there in the marketplace? How can we serve them better and differently? So that is absolutely something that I'm looking at. And what I'm really seeing emerge from the marketplace right now is people are looking at prioritization with an old lens. And they're prioritizing, like, okay, we got to get this done, we got to get this done. And I am really asking our team, and I would encourage our customers, right, zoom out and think about value as bookends. Before you start the work, you have to understand what value you're going to create and then measure it all the way through the process, right? And oftentimes now with AI, you may have something that's incredibly efficient, but it's a small group of people it impacts. So you might have another use case that's not quite as efficient, but it's your entire company. Go do those use cases, right? So really focus on that value and understanding that value. And part of it is people have to build, test, learn, measure, right? And really understand it. And it's not something that you deliver and then you sit back, right? We are revving every day. We look at our metrics, we look at our feedback, our understanding every single day of what we're getting from our employees, right? What we're hearing from our customer and partners, and then how do we drive to make things better and better and better? And that, it is just, we are just intense, right, on that feedback and really understanding the situation, right? The market is in, our employees are in, our customers are in.
So what I'm hearing you say is set a goal for what success looks like and work backward from that. Great advice. Select use cases that would be the maximum value. Maybe it's not an individual team where it would be a huge swing.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it's a larger organizational transformation with AI that would be a small incremental improvement, but much more significant than a huge one within a small team. And the other thing that you just said was iterate rapidly. So this is all fantastic advice.
I'd love to add one more.
Yeah, please.
One of the things that I talk to my team about is don't build in silos. There are so many, so as you're reimagining your work, you're thinking about the agentic workflows that you're creating and the outcomes. Great example is Zero Service Desk that we're going to be launching in September. Amazing. So how do we take that service desk and scale that across my finance needs, my HR needs, my legal needs, and the company? So taking these models and creating extensibility and scalability across the organization, getting out of silos, is so important. And I've seen that a lot in the market because teams stand up AI and they just want to work and run and try to drive it forward and get really quick value, but they're in a silo. We need them to look up and look across.
That's great advice too. In fact, you've seen this with how people are adopting AI agents frequently. They'll deploy an agentic workflow or a simple AI agent within a team or a department. And by spanning silos, one of the things that they struggle with is the trust boundaries that go across those silos and the non-determinism of that agent. So if they're pulling data from across different team functions or silos, obviously ServiceNow has an advantage with a single data platform here, but let's be realistic, as a platform, ServiceNow is connecting to a variety of different systems. So when you're thinking across silos and you're building these agentic workflows across application boundaries, which are trust boundaries, and you've got a non-deterministic agent, I guess, what piece of advice would you give to companies when they're thinking about these AI agents?
That's a really great question, and you're spot on. And I talk to CIOs quite a bit and talk to lots of other C-suite leaders, and that trust boundaries is real. One thing that we've seen work is we have to think about our job as we're architecting the business transformation for all, right? So we're converting those. They need to think about those AI concepts and convert them to a competitive advantage and think about how do they win for their whole company, right? Not just for their department or their group. So it's not like, yep, we check box, okay, great, here, throw it over the wall, you can use this. And you know this, right? With one platform, with secure information, right? With one workflow, right? So AI plus data plus workflow. They are able to scale across the entire enterprise and meet it at all four corners of the business. And we're running fast. Everyone's running fast on AI. I know everyone's running fast on AI, but just look up and look across. It's so important because, to your point, and help show those successes and build on them with each other. And I know it's challenging, but if you don't connect the dots, no one else is for you.
So you guys have been a leader, not just in AI, right? The company ServiceNow was talking about AI agents before any other enterprises were. This was 2023. The other way that you've been a leader is by using confidential AI agents to cryptographically enforce the data policies that span those trust boundaries. So during the computation time, you're enforcing those policies that are inherited from those variety of different data sources to provide verifiable proof that you're honoring those and keeping everything, the access controls in place. Of course,
absolutely.
So what challenges have you come across while deploying confidential AI agents, and how did you address them?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. I think it comes back to the word we talked about earlier, trust, right? You have to ensure that people understand the outcomes that you're creating in these confidential, this confidential content or this confidential information, and putting the agents to work in it, that it is contained, right? And it is a secure environment. And what I say often is I like to think of, we've moved AI confidential work and workflow from a black box to a glass box, creating transparency, democratizing it, creating transparency, and then unifying it across our platform with orchestration helps to relieve some of those concerns. 100%. And then showing the steps, right? And showing the outcomes and how the outcomes do, right, manage the confidential data, across the enterprise.
Now, sometimes I get people who say like, Opaque, you want transparency. And I have to explain, yes, you want transparency of compliance and governance.
Of course.
But you don't want transparency
Absolutely
for people to see your data.
No.
You don't want to make it possible for partners, competitors, your downstream suppliers to have access to your data, particularly in a time when AI can take that data and spin up a disruptive competitor at a fraction of the cost. So protecting that metadata as part of your data flows, protecting the data that's flowing into AI, Obviously, that has to stay confidential, but I could not agree with you more. It's about the transparency of being able to say, hey, listen, here's an audit trail that's signed by the hardware proving your data policies are intact. That's the glass box part of it.
Yeah, I think so in governance, right? I mean, I use,
Yep.
we have a tool called AI Control Tower as well. And as the CIO of the organization, I'm able to see all of my agents that are active in design, right, or in build, and what we are creating, the efficiencies, the gains that we're creating, and the pipeline that we will create. And then we use that to govern across the board as well. So as you talk about governance, you have to have the right governance in place to get the glass box, right, that we're both anchoring on, so that people can experiment with AI safely, ethically, right? And so important to have those guardrails in place. And we always make sure we have those guardrails in place, obviously, right? And I mean, all of our AI agents are backed by accountable framework, ethical guidelines, human oversight, yes, human in the loop, right? And acting in the service of people, right? So it's not just a process. We're continually monitoring it, balancing it, making sure we're looking at anomalies. You heard me earlier. We look at this every single day, every single day.
So the glass box metaphor I really like, in spite of being the CEO of a company named Opaque. The reason I do is any industry research points to the number one cause preventing companies from either adopting and deploying into production or getting value is concerns around data privacy, data security.
Yep.
So when you have the ability to be transparent and show the governance and the compliance is in place, that unblocks the value, that unblocks the production.
That's right. And that's a baseline. That's a baseline. And CIOs need to be helping their organizations get there.
Yeah. You said that we can't view AI as a siloed piece of technology, and you need to be thinking holistically. How is ServiceNow helping companies to drive company-wide value from AI strategy?
So many different ways, right? But I think one way that I talked about, right, is our AI Control Tower. We have such an opportunity to manage and govern, right? And at the end of the day, also we're having the conversations that this transformation is real, right? It's grounded in trust, right? It's grounded in outcomes. It's grounded in proof. It's grounded in results.
Verifiable proof, yeah.
Verifiable proof.
Hope and assurance about, hey, we have a trust layer. What's it based on?
Right.
Hope.
Yeah, no, that won't work, right? That won't work.
There's no verifiability.
Yeah.
You guys actually have the verifiability.
We have verifiability. And I think also, let's anchor back to that customer zero. I get on the phone with customers and I'm like, let us show you the architecture. Let us show you the best way to set this up. Let me tell you about some things that I've learned. I would love for you to learn from some challenges that we've had and learn from our successes as well, right? We're not perfect. Talk about hungry and humble.
That's
right?
the ServiceNow way, is the openness. Like whether it's at Knowledge or in every one of your EBCs, I know you guys are so transparent and open with sharing, like, hey, here's where we struggled with this. Here's how we've solved this.
100%. And I think also people need to remember, right? Agentic AI doesn't replace people and the talent, right? We're going to have the people and the talent. It amplifies it. And creating that secure, safe environment to experiment, learn, grow, and then lead and deliver, right, is so important for our employees, our partners, and our customers.
Kellie, we've covered a lot of ground here. Zooming out, what's one AI trend that you're most excited about?
That's easy. It's agentic workforce management. I've mentioned it a little bit earlier. I teased it with the Zero Service Desk, right? So if you think about it, we're designing intelligent agent workforce that partners with a human, that drives our business outcomes across the enterprise to a new level of productivity and innovation. Okay, what does that mean, right? On our single platform model, our AI agents don't just act on one simple task, right? They learn, they evolve, they work across multiple functions, as you heard me talk about. Don't do silos, right? So from IT ops to customer support and beyond, and they also are governed by our humans, right? And you heard me tie it back to our AI Control Tower. So what does that mean? These agentic workforce aren't replacing our humans, right? It's amplifying our talent, like I mentioned earlier, right? So that creates more collaboration room, more elevation room. It helps us focus on higher value work, helps us to reskill folks through our ServiceNow University, which anyone can go to. You can go to it. Your team can go to it. Listeners can go to it, right? And it just helps with our curiosity and experimentation. It just really creates a platform for our entire company to elevate with agentic workforce management.
That's super exciting. And the thing that immediately comes to my mind is going back to that MIT research paper. One of the things that came up as a finding was where companies in the enterprise were deploying AI tended to be these consumer products for sales and marketing. So they're creating like AI Slag.
Yeah.
What you're describing is something far different. And it actually aligns exactly with where MIT said is the real value, which is back office. So you're automating across all of the back office using AI agents grounded in the customer's enterprise data.
That's right.
That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And it's powerful and it's incredibly helpful, right, to the organization because you're unlocking tech-led, tech-forward, unlocking those silos, right? And it's helping the collaboration, it's helping the unification, right? And it's creating this really nice orchestration, both with tech and with people across our company.
So this might be a difficult question.
Okay.
And the reason I think it might be difficult is because I've never seen technology move at a pace like it's moving right now.
Me either.
So what used to take 3 or 4 years, you see happening in weeks or months, right?
That's right. Yep.
So this might be an unfair question.
Uh-oh. I better get ready.
What's your bold prediction for AI 5 years from now?
Oh, well, I have one. So I'm happy to give it. I am incredibly passionate about democratization of education and information. And personally, I'm a lifelong learner. I have 2 teenage daughters, and I love seeing them learn and grow in all of the new opportunities. So when I zoom out, I feel like knowledge and skills are a great equalizer. And we're going to have access to so much power of that knowledge and skills, have how much technology can do with that. So you combine that with the power of technology, unlocking human potential at a global scale. That's huge, right? So think about it, right? So we could use it for AI for more inclusive practices. We could use it for more equitable treatment, right? We can help organizations improve their systems, their policies, right? And even the culture. I talked a little bit about the culture. When I talked about breaking down the silos of technology also helps to bring the people together. So I think education and unity of organizations is where we're going.
That's a fantastic and bold vision, and I'm inspired by it.
Thanks.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time, inviting me to the Santa Clara office.
Yes, isn't it? It's awesome, right?
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Everybody here has been wonderful
to
speak with, and I'm just really grateful for your time and you sharing your vision and the great value that you've delivered through confidential AI agents.
Yeah, absolutely. I love our partnership, and I know we'll keep growing it. And again, for anyone out there, we are here to help and we're here to serve. So love this time together and appreciate the conversation.
I really love talking to Kellie. Every time I have an interaction with her, she just comes across so authentic and uniquely compassionate. She's also far deeper in technical chops than a lot of senior executives that are CIOs, which makes sense given her role at ServiceNow of all companies. The significance of confidential agents really cannot be overstated. This is how enterprises are going to be able to unlock not just single AI agents within a team or department, but it'll become increasingly important as it spans across trust boundaries that are customers, partners, competitors, and you create these composite systems. In fact, I haven't discussed it on a podcast before, but it's why Anthropic is a customer of Opaque as well. And solving that problem where you can build these composite systems is something that Opaque's actively working on with Anthropic and other frontier model labs. So this unlocks the value of how enterprises get differentiation from generative AI, which is entirely driven by their ability to use their proprietary data. That's the only way they get competitive advantage.
Yeah, I think that was such an interesting conversation. You mentioned how technical that Kellie is, but I think that everyone that you've introduced me to from ServiceNow, including yourself, are probably deeper on how the tech works than I would have expected 10 years ago. And I think it's only going to be more of a requirement as we go forward, because all of this AI technology is new learning for everyone. You can't just rely on what you knew 15 or 20 years ago. So great episode. I wish I could have joined you, but I think that's probably a wrap.
Yeah, I would have loved to have you there too, Mark. like Kellie said, it's about trust. Everything is about like that's been like the theme of my professional career is trust. And I think ServiceNow demonstrates that in their deep knowledge of the technology and their commitment to their customers' privacy. So if you want to learn more about how to use AI responsibly, check out our website at opaque.co. If you like the podcast, please subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And we'd love your review. I think last time I looked, we only had 11. So go give us a review. This episode of AI Confidential was produced by Wolverton Media Solutions, Places Media, Kodiak's Media, the AIE.net, and Opaque, the leading confidential AI platform. Our music is from my buddy Matt Melamuka, and I'm Aaron Fulkerson.
And I'm Mark Hinkle, the Dr. Drew of generative AI, your artificially intelligent therapist. You're listening to AI Confidential. We'll see you next time.